Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, and it is 5:37 p.m. The city will hold a hybrid CRA meeting. The public may participate in person at City Hall or virtually utilizing video conference via WebEx events or the toll-free conference call number. Please go to cityofhomestead.com/calendar for specific details and instructions on participation utilizing video and telephonic conferencing. The meeting can also be viewed live on the City Access channel or city website at cityofhomestead.com. Public comments can be made in person at the meeting or emailed to publiccomments@cityofhomestead.com. Written public comments are limited to 300 words per comment. Written public comments on specific agenda items, including your name, address, item you'd like to comment on, and your comment, can be submitted by noon Monday, January 10th, 2022, and will be included in the minutes. Written public comments on general matters should include your name, address, and your comment. It can be submitted up until 30 minutes after the end of the CRA meeting and will also be included in the minutes. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Board Member Ruff, Board Member Bailey, Board Member Fletcher, Board Member Avila,
Here.
Vice Chairman Guzman, Chairman Losner.
Here. Ms. Driver, are there any deletions or deferrals?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, next item is tab 1, approval of the minutes of our December 15th, 2021 meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval of those minutes. Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Any nays? Thank you. Next item is new business, car number 3360, Minority Builders Coalition Development Agreement, tab 2. Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tab 2 is a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a development agreement and lease with Broward County Minority Builders Coalition, Inc., approving the eventual sale of the property to Broward County Minority Builders Coalition, Inc., and providing for implementation of the development agreement and purchase agreement.
Thank you. Ms. Driver?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the September 13, 2021 Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting, the board authorized the HCRA Executive Director to negotiate a development agreement with Broward County Minority Builders Coalition, Inc. for the construction of 4 new homes on HCRA-owned lots. The vacant lots are located on Southwest 6th Street and Southwest 7th Street in the Southwest neighborhood. The newly constructed homes will be sold to buyers with household incomes no less than 80% AMI and no greater than 120% AMI. Priority will be given to first-time homebuyers currently residing in Homestead, with preference to those who live within the CRA boundary. Qualified buyers may be eligible for down payment and/or closing cost assistance through the CRA's first-time homebuyers program. In the attached agreement, you will find that there are deed restrictions for the property that will be in existence for 15 years, and those include that the property shall be solely for residential purposes, allowing for home offices where permitted by applicable zoning regulations. The property must be owner-occupied and not leased. 1 or more persons or family living in the property at or below 120% of area median income. And the purchase's monthly mortgage payment, taxes, insurances, and utilities do not exceed 35% of adjusted gross income. And finally, the owner must maintain the property in good repair. The CRA will maintain ownership of the lot until the project is complete, and then upon CO, the land will be conveyed to the minority builders for them to sell to the potential buyers. I did want to point out that there is precedent for CRAs giving land to builders for affordable homes. There have been other CRAs and even Miami-Dade County and Broward County that have also conveyed land at no cost to nonprofit developers for the construction of affordable homes. And so With that in mind, staff recommends that the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the Executive Director to enter into a development agreement with the Broward County Minority Builders Coalition, Inc. for the construction of 4 new homes on the CRA-owned lots on Southwest 6th Street and Southwest 7th Street in the Southwest neighborhood. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Council members, board members, any questions or comments to kick off this conversation? Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I noticed that in the memorandum that we have, it shows 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,125 square feet, price of $265. Seems pretty attractive. I just wanted to ask, Development Services, I thought has a 1,200 square foot minimum, but this falls within the threshold that you're allowed to build without any special exception?
No, this falls within the Southwest Master Plan. There are some different delineations depending on what was on the site before, and so that this property fits within those guidelines. And if for some reason they go before Development Services and Development Services finds anything wrong with their site plans, they will make any adjustments necessary.
Excellent. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate that. Board members? Well, it's no secret that, and I've expressed it in the past, some concerns about actually giving the property away. But I have a question about some of the calculations, and we touched on this at the last meeting about a certain amount of proceeds, they call it net proceeds after the builder's cost and the concessions and so forth being put back into the community. And based on the calculations I did, and I don't mean to dismiss this amount of money, it seems to be at best about $124,000. Can you clarify what that's contemplated to be utilized for?
Brian Johnson, representing NBC, is on the line. So if you would like, I would defer to him. That's okay?
Sure, thank you. Mr. Johnson, are you there?
You're on, but we cannot hear you. We can see you, but we cannot hear you.
Is he still there?
He's on, but we cannot. It seems like he's not connected to audio. Maybe he can hear us, but we cannot hear him.
Well, let me just express my concern. I'm not big on this, and the language used was community supportive activities, and it talked about opening an office to help businesses, and I don't believe for a minute that $124,000 would really accomplish that. And my question is, or comment is rather than having those, for lack of a better expression, those excess proceeds, why not just further reduce the cost of those homes to make them more affordable for our buyers? I mean, these prices are really, and look, I understand the cost of construction is high, but if we're going to be donating the land, let's give the benefit directly to our local families who are going to be buying. And based on the numbers I had, the calculations that the price for the largest home would go from $359 to $308. The middle-sized house would go from $325 to $274, with the smallest of the three going from a price of $265 to $213. That's a big difference when you start making mortgage payments, and I'm more comfortable making that contribution to the community than having this entity from Fort Lauderdale come down here and use that excess money kind of in what they feel is, community supportive. And as I pointed out to our manager to be and the manager, after what I know happened with the $50,000 at Homestead Station that was just kind of giveaway money and never really resulted in any direct benefit for the community, I don't have a lot of confidence in this kind of money being, it's, to me, it's just kind of like vapor of promises. So I would wonder if there was a way to take that out of the equation and just reduce the cost of, the maximum cost of the homes, rather than have that $125,000 just floating around.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't believe that they intended for all of their proceeds to go to services into the community. They are going to use some of it, and they do have a lease for a property down here in Homestead on Chrome where they're going to be bringing their business along with the housing partner that they're working with. So they've already moved forward with getting a lease agreement down here to bring some operations here. But I don't believe the entire 124 was going to go towards investing back in the community. I mean, they're a business, and so yes, they are a nonprofit provider, but I'm sure that there are, some costs that they will want to use as part of that 124. And in essence, it's as if we would be asking them to build these homes for free, if we're now telling them to roll the 124 into the cost of the home. And I don't know that, I think we'd be hard pressed to find any developer that would construct homes for us for free.
Well, bear with
Ms.
me.
Driver, can you hear me?
Mayor, I think we have the developer on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
Okay, through the chair, thank you so much to you all. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to Maria. Thank you to Kamitra for getting us this far. I do want to answer your question directly, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Ms. Driver is correct. What is considered net proceeds is the difference between all of the construction costs and the sales price that we have made sure is affordable to begin with. And she's absolutely correct. If you take a look at the actual calculations, the per house percentages is a 10%, around a 10% net proceeds. The other word used the word profit, but we'll call it net proceeds. So we're looking at 10%. So those are extremely thin margins comparatively, and that's because we don't exist for profit. But to Ms. Driver's point, we simply can't do it for free, and certainly can't afford to pay to construct. But I do want to make sure that you are clear that we've actually done those calculations for affordability in advance. So if you take a look at how the prices have been set for each of those models, we've assessed what has been selling in the area with comparable size. We've kept track of what is selling in the area of comparable size. And we've already set significant discounts on sales prices of each of those models by comparative size, where our homes will be newer, in some cases bigger, and in other cases certainly fresher than houses that are sold for more in the same neighborhood. The other point is that by making them affordable and using the 80% threshold, we wanted to leave room for residents in the area who already make less than the area median income. And again, at this point, it's 80%, while extending the market of folk to 100% and 120 to ensure that we have qualified buyers for the four houses. And each of the homes will be purchased by families where the housing costs are within the affordable range. So we've done those calculations already, and I'm confident that and the other thing is, I'm not exactly looking at the numbers you're looking at, sir, but you would also note that we already give $10,000 of that back, 5 in upgrades, and then another $5,000 towards purchase assistance. So we're already giving back what would be 40 of that into the residents already. So We've had that discussion, and certainly as a not-for-profit developer, that's the benefit you get for us, making sure that the homes benefit the affordable, low and moderate income families as much as possible. I hope I answered the question.
Well, let me, and first I want to read from the summary that was prepared by our CRA. The second page of the summary talks about proceeds from home sales will be reinvested back into the community redevelopment area to provide supportive community services. MBC will use funds to open a homestead office where technical and financial assistance and training will be offered to area small businesses. All right, so again, proceeds from home sales will be utilized. Now, as part of your package, there's a page that says our plan and the pro forma. And the large model talks about total effective sales price, and then it talks about your construction cost at $318,005 is your construction cost. So I'm assuming that $318,005, should cover all of your costs of construction and build in your premium for being the builder, payment for being the builder. And then it shows the $10,000 contribution resulting in the net proceeds of $30,995 per unit on the larger of the units. So what you're telling me is the entirety of those net proceeds are not really going to be invested back into the community.
Well, so let me explain what we did there. What we did was we articulated the benefit of having a nonprofit developer, and that when we make money from earned revenue from our activities, we don't take those monies, divide it amongst ourselves, go down to Hard Rock or the Seminole and bet it all on black or buy ourselves cars. We take that money and go back into exactly what we do as a primary offering for community economic development. And those offerings include minor home repair for low and moderate income families, minor home repair for seniors, small and minority business advocacy and supports. And we've committed to expanding our existing services into your area because we expect that after we exceed your expectations on this first four, we will be looking at a longer horizon of a presence of minority builders partnering with the City of Homestead and the CRA to provide many of those same services to your residents. And so our organization exists off of this earned revenue as well as contributions, and this is another revenue center where those revenues go back into the services that we provide, and we are expanding services to the City of Homestead.
But, and again, let's say for sake of argument that at best, the $124,000 doesn't go a long way to staff an office and pay rent and utilities. So is this really something substantial, or, and that's what leads me, and you may have heard me use the term, it's just a vapor. And that's what I'm concerned about, because let's not kid ourselves. You have behind you a whole long line of shysters, hucksters, and con men who have tried to get the better of the city, and I'm trying to make sure that you're not the next one in line, that you're going to deviate from that. Because, look, maybe I'm out of touch, but I don't call $359,000 affordable, certainly not when you are at that income level. It may be relatively inexpensive in this market, but that's far different from saying affordable. So, to me, it sounds like you're talking about doing a business incubator in Homestead. Is that in effect what's going on when you talk about the financial assistance and training offered to area small businesses?
No, sir. So the Minority Builders Coalition has been articulated in the detailed proposal, is heading upon 51 years of what we consider under the umbrella of community economic development, where our goal is to increase the prosperity of low and moderate income families through safe and, in some cases, home ownership, safe living environments. In other cases where we manage rentals, as I said, for about 38 years, we've been the leader in providing no-cost minor home repair to seniors. We are the leading advocate for small and minority contractors in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. And within that advocacy, we make sure that we work with partners to provide small business resources to help those firms collectively advocate, create opportunities, and to be able to perform and profit from the opportunities that they create. Now, as a nonprofit organization who exists for all of those charitable purposes, we have provided those services to the benefit of families in Broward County, our base, in Miami-Dade County on the north end, and we are looking through the start of this relationship to be expanding those services in Homestead. What that will mean is, with a base in Homestead, and we've already identified an office, we will provide the existing services with existing funding sources to your residents where the funding sources allow, but then we will also be writing to new funding sources so we can provide the same services in your areas where the new funding sources allow. And so that is the long-term plan where the development of these first 4 homes gives us our introduction to your city, our ability to interact with your residents, our ability to engage with your businesses so that we can be a service provider for them the way we've been for 51 years in Broward and North Miami-Dade.
Oh, and thank you. And that brings me to another point. And, you've talked about your 51 years of being in existence. Yet our executive summary talks about in the last 5 years, you've only completed 8 single-family homes. Have you done apartments, or have things been slow for the last 5 years? That doesn't seem like a lot of progress if that's accurate. And again, I'm reading from the summary provided to us from staff. Within the last 5 years, NBC has completed construction on 8 single-family homes. Is that correct?
So the 51 years, no, actually, it's incomplete. It is correct, but it's an incomplete picture of who we are and our 5 decades of experience. The 51 years cover all of the services that I described. In the detailed proposal, there is a table of related projects where we listed the funding sources, the number of units, the time frames for completion of related projects. And so new home construction, minor home repair, home renovation. We also serve as a construction manager for 5 cities in Broward as well as the county for many of their for their home CDBG and SHIP programs. And so we existed and have existed for 51 years on a lot of stuff. What we provided what you have been provided in that summary are the most recent experiences doing the exact thing that we're asking to do or we're looking to do with this development agreement, which is build houses. In addition to the 8 that we've completed, we have 6 under construction right now in the city of Lauderdale, with another 4 or 5 in the city of Fort Lauderdale that will be following that. So that's just the new home construction. Again, 51 years with a lot of stuff that we've done, serving tens of thousands of residents over that time.
Well, can you give me then a general idea of what your annual budget would be allocable to doing your operations in Homestead above and beyond the construction of single-family residence?
So I haven't developed an annual budget for the city of Homestead because the only thing we've been able to discuss would be the completion of these 4 homes. Now, what we committed to is making sure that starting with this initial relationship, we will begin to expand our expertise and our services that we currently do to the city of Homestead. So I have not contemplated, and my board has not adopted a full budget for Homestead because, and it's another point I want to make, that's a projected net proceeds. We haven't started building yet. We haven't assessed the land yet. We haven't fully accounted for all the costs yet. And we fully expect that those projections may shrink over time. So I can't build a 12-year program budget on projections where we're still at the development stage and don't know exactly what the scope and scale of the approved project is going to be until we get this approval tonight.
So it sounds like really your long-term activities in Homestead seem to be predicated on an expectation that you're going to be awarded additional lots within or without the
Well,
city.
not exactly, because there's an office that has been identified and a lease that has been signed such that the services by our partner in Chester District on the line now begins to start now. And so the new home buyer education, the qualifications, preparing them and to identify your residents, to identify a home ownership opportunities in and around the city of Homestead and throughout the Miami-Dade County, those will start in earnest at some point this month. We will take up residence in that very same office with them and begin to engage the contractors in your area. As a part of the development of these homes, we will begin to engage home buyers and those who in that Southwest neighborhood who would like to buy a house. And so we will do what we have done for 51 years starting in your city, but I think it's a little preliminary for us to set up a long-term budget and a long-term operations plan on just the first 4 houses. Obviously, we intend to propose to other funding sources for some of the same services, but including your city as a service area in the future.
Appreciate that. Appreciate your candor. Thank you. Those are all the questions
Thank you, sir.
I have. Board Member Avila has maybe a comment or question for you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the pages for the cost breakdown, and I see contractor overhead, contractor profit, soft costs, and other total. Is that the profit that MBC that we're discussing here for MBC, or is that over and above?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We have a general contractor, HBR, who, when we disclose our prices, we like to let you look under the hood and behind the curtain to see exactly what goes into how we price out a project. And so we disclose the general contractor's costs independent of the construction management, overhead, and profit, and other things. So what you're looking at are the general contractor's hard costs.
Okay, well, it says soft costs of $60,000, for example, on Palmetto Model.
Yeah, the soft cost of $60,000. Yeah.
Okay, and then do you know what the other
Soft.
category is? It says other, totaling $23,000 on Palmetto, another $20,000 on the Legend model, and then another $16,000
let me
on
pull
the
my.
Rose.
I believe those may include permit costs as well as impact fees, but let me pull my document out so I can give you those exact numbers. Hold 1 second. I apologize. I didn't have.
While you look for that, I have a question for our Vice Mayor, or Board Member Guzman. I know that you have a lot of experience with builders. Do these numbers look accurate to you based on the renderings that we see?
Given the way supply chain has had issues recently, I have noticed that developers have been increasing their prices consistently with the way materials have been going up. The question that well, just to answer your question, I can't really tell because I haven't dove into these specific numbers, so I can't really say. All I do know is that material costs have been going up dramatically, which has caused an increase in home prices recently. So
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
The cost breakdowns are found on page 22 of Exhibit 3, 25, and 28.
Got it. So in the cost breakdown, in lines 1 through 37, those are the hard costs for the general contract. The soft costs will include things such as impact fees, permitting fees, and other soft costs that were not spelled out, but are consistent with what we have been seeing in other areas and what we project in your city with your and as well as your county fees.
Thank you. And then just below that, for example, on the Palmetto model on page 22, it says other total.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see where the other is being referenced. Like what are those other fees?
Yeah, that may be a typo because that is supposed to carry the 11,727 plus the 11,727 plus the 60,000. The total is 318, but that line item is a typo. That is supposed to be the total of 36 through 38.
It should be total what?
You see that? And under the other category, 36 is contract overhead, 36 is contract profit, 38 is soft cost. That other total is supposed to calculate the total of those three. The 11,727.50, the 11,727.50, and 60,000.
Okay, got it. So it should be a subtotal for those.
Right.
Three. Got it. Okay.
Right, that's
Improper-
subtotal just for that
improper entry.
section.
So is our bottom number of project total a miscalculation?
No, that 318 is correct. It's just that line item is wrong. We use a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet to calculate those.
Thank you. And then I did notice in the packet some of the renderings showing barrel tile roof, whereas the separate loose leaf paper shows just a shingle roof. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, ma'am. Early on in the process, we were giving an idea of what some of the models that we built might look like and some of the models that we're proposing might look like in your area. But trying to keep these costs down as affordable as possible. We were looking at trying to do the barrel tile on the two palmettos, which are the bigger models. They're not as wide, but they're long. But we ultimately chose to not increase the cost of construction and went with the shingle roofs. So you receive an updated rendering that shows the shingle roofs instead of the barrel tile.
Got it. And then if construction costs were to hopefully go down in the future when you start to break ground, would we be able to see the net proceeds per unit go up and fluctuate? And would we be getting updated calculations throughout the process? Like how informed are we going to stay during this construction?
So I anticipate open and constant communication as we've had over the last 8 months with Ms. Driver between she and I. We will be giving her an update on the construction so that after this approval, we will go into our huddle on tomorrow and update the schedule. And we will provide regular and our normal practices, monthly updates on construction where we break down the different milestones, the percentages of completion, and any other observations that we have. So we'll be providing a monthly report to Ms. Driver on our construction progress throughout this project.
Thank you. And while I can certainly understand the need for the organization to have to utilize the net proceeds in a way to keep the business functioning and to be able to make those reinvestments and start or be the catalyst for your vision for Homestead and the partnership we're trying to create, I do share to a certain extent the sentiments that board member or chair Losner is expressing. Would you be able and open to maybe considering a split sharing of the net proceeds where we can take a portion and restrict those funds for specific uses that the board can agree to? And you don't have to answer now, but maybe that's something we can consider because I do like the idea of us having some control over those net proceeds and how they're reinvested.
Okay, yeah, sure. We would have a conversation with Ms. Driver subsequent to this meeting where we could review again all the different moving pieces. And I would hate to prescribe in advance any use of anything on the outside, on the back end, because again, we just don't know. And the gentleman spoke earlier is absolutely correct. In some of our recent iterations of construction, we've had the horrors of materials escalations and making sure that we've sufficiently budgeted for us to accommodate those escalations, since there is no funding coming from the CRA. And so it's always smart to make sure that we're managing the project in a way that we certainly don't lose. But if it gets to a point where the net proceeds increase, now absolutely, we exist to provide a benefit to the community. So we'd be more than happy to have a discussion with Ms. Driver about what other ways in which we could give back to the homestead community.
Thank you. And are we, is this for discussion today only, and it's going to come back for a decision, or what was the board looking to do today?
Staff's request was that you all would authorize the city manager, the CRA executive director, to enter into the agreement, to execute the agreement with NBC.
Okay, thank you. I'll rest for now, see if anyone else has comments.
Thank you. A couple of things. Board Member Avila, to your point earlier today, just for my own curiosity, I did some calculations. On the larger home, it seems that the estimated cost per square foot is $200.67 per square foot, with a range going up to $235.55 for the smaller home. Is that, Vice Chair, any thoughts on that?
That wouldn't seem to be normal based on my experience.
And let me ask the representative of NBC, and I want to compliment the catch of the change in the roofing material to our fellow board member. If we're going from barrel tile to shingle, is it 3-tab or is it at least architectural shingle? Or do you know?
I don't know that. I can have my contractor answer that question later on. I'll make sure I write that question down and get that back to you from the contractor, see which shingle system he factored into the pricing.
Okay, because, you know, in the spirit of all transparency, I'm not impressed with the architecture. I understand there's a need to contain cost. But there's not, in my view, you know, okay, let's treat architecture like art. Everybody has their opinion. There's nothing special about the look of these homes. So if you're talking about going all the way down to a 3-tab shingle from a barrel tile, for me, that's just another reason not to support this. And I want to be really clear. Something needs to happen, but I'm not going to support something just for the sake of something happening. It's got to be really good. It's got to be special. And at this point, I'm just not seeing that. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question for Board Member Avila. Is it typical for home buyers or homeowners to spend 30% of their income on housing? Is that the general rule of thumb?
So the housing ratio for most families in the, let's say, the FHA HUD world is typically 35 to 46%. So of the income, but there are usually other sources of income in the household that aren't calculated in that figure, and so the rough calculation would be higher than what the real income in the home might be. Does that answer your question?
And for Ms. Driver, 73,000 shows as the income limit. Do we have any demographics on what the average household income is in the Southwest area?
The average household income in the area in the CRA is typically low to moderate income. So we're looking at between the 50,000, 50, maybe 60,000 for household income. I can give you the exact numbers if, you know, at a later date. I'm just going off of memory right now, but it is a lower income community. And these numbers, and when we looked at the prices of the home and we looked at Miami-Dade County, and that's why we went 80% to 100%, 120% of AMI, and calculated the cost based upon what would be affordable for individuals fitting in that range, and it falls within the appropriate range.
Thank you. So throughout all of the conferences, all of the real estate conferences that I go to, it's hard to identify exactly what is considered affordable housing. It's a very broad, topic. But sometimes I think that if we start utilizing different design standards, then we can get the cost of construction or the cost of the actual home down a lot further than what they are. What I can say is, with the prices that I see in this package, these are some of the prices for townhomes now in this area. So one thing that I can say in favor of this is that, if you're looking to be in a single family home, this is providing that option to be in a single family home when compared to a townhome. But that's really, I would like to see the homes constructed and being sold a lot less so that we could truly provide affordable. And I want to define affordable for that area and say affordable means not more than X amount, which, I'd have to go back and see the demographics and see what the household incomes are for that whole area, and then decide, okay, this is what's affordable based on the average of the incomes in this area.
Can I make a point, sir? I think you just made an excellent point. We have included as a part of our, and it looks like you dropped off, as a part of our team, a collaboration with Housing Foundation of America, and Chester Bishop, being the CEO of Housing Foundation, is one of the state's foremost experts in first-time home buyer programs. So a feature of our engagement includes the activities that we plan to do to ensure that we can identify purchase assistance dollars. We've identified some that we anticipate that most will qualify for. There's a group of lenders who provide first-time home buyer financing for homes like this and programs like this, who also have purchase assistance incentives built in them that we continue to have relationships with. So we have every intention of replicating the experiences that we've had in the past, where we've ensured that the low and moderate income buyers who are squarely within the priority group, the low and moderate income families who are squarely within the priority group of how and why we've existed for 51 years as a charitable nonprofit institution, can move into this house and not only afford to stay, but ideally with the work that we do to try to find purchase assistance, they can potentially move in with equity. So that is the ultimate goal. But certainly we've done a lot of work to ensure that we've set them up to at least buy homes, and to your point, single family homes that they own with a yard and a mailbox at the affordable prices. And your prices in your area, as it is all throughout the state, are still going up, by the way.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, thank you. Ms. Driver.
if I may. So I have a housing affordability calculator that we use when trying to determine the price. And at 35%, if they meet that 35% threshold, that it doesn't go over their monthly income, at $365,000 home price with only a $12,000 down payment, the minimum income would be $57,654, meaning somebody making $57,654 could afford a home at $365,000, where it wouldn't be if they met that 35% threshold. So that's how we calculated. So we got the affordability calculator from Miami-Dade County. So we used the formula from them. And so that's how we determined that these prices would be affordable for individuals within our community that are within the low to moderate income.
And what interest rate are you using for that calculation?
4%.
4%.
And at a 30-year term.
But that's P&I only. That's not taxes and insurance. So I could envision where it could go up substantially, even doubling.
Sometimes the escrow is higher than the P&I.
It's,
I'd like to see the project eventually come to fruition, but I think that, this was a really good opportunity to kind of see everything on paper. The only other meeting we've had so far was that initial presentation, correct? So if we can maybe take some of the feedback from today's meeting and really fine tune, what are the numbers? What is the long-term goal? Is there a possibility to come to a share of the proceeds so that we can have our say in some of the use of the funds? And then I'm fine with the simplistic design aspect of the homes because that's supposedly will cut down your project costs. But my mind is kind of having a hard time wrapping around, building 4 houses with $1.3 million, and we're giving the land for free, and then we're not in control of any of the impact outside of the sale. But I want to keep the conversation going. My intention is not to cut it short, so if other members have more to add, please.
Thank you. I think Board Member Bailey signaled she'd like to weigh in.
Thank you, Chairman. Those were my main questions, were how can we continue to make sure that this was going to the right type of families, that it was staying in Homestead. So I just want to start by saying that this program also has a lot of other things in the background besides just the amount of money that's used to build the homes and go. This is a hand-holding process and something that I think is very, very important for the Southwest. My only concern right now is I do think 300 and change is high. I live in the Southwest. My home was bought at a little less than that. I'm personally struggling right now, so I would love to see that calculator really look into what the taxes would be as well. Because that's not, that part there isn't making sense to me. And the only other thing is if we're pushing so hard for these amenities on the other side of town, I can't be okay with the shingles. Having hurricane-proof windows and those barrel tiles, that was in the initial discussions. That is something that I would love to see us do if we can find out what the difference would be in the pricing. I know you're offering $5,000 in closing costs as well as $5,000 in upgrades. If there's anything that we can do to make sure that these homes come as worry-free and easy to these first-time home buyers as possible, I would love to see us push for these same type of amenities. I understand the building costs are incredibly high, and I'm not sure what the solution is, but that would be my one big comment, is to make sure that those two things are part of this project.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
if I may. So I agree with you with the amenities. I agree that the design, we could have lovelier homes, but we want homes that people can get into. So to make them lovelier, then we have to add amenities that cost money, which drive up the costs of the home, which somebody has to eat that cost. And I don't know how we're going to be able to balance the two to give the beautiful home. And by the way, the impact windows are included in these. It's just the barrel tile that has been changed. So you're getting a good quality home, not to mention remember the finishings on the inside of the home, or where they're top-notch finishings. So they're getting a great-looking home on the inside, a good-looking home on the outside as well. Is it something that we would like to see look better? Of course. But who's going to cover the cost of that? And the calculator that I just gave you, that down payment it only included a down payment of $12,000. Remember, they new home buyers could be eligible for $10,000 from us, in addition to whatever they are bringing to the table, in addition to other sources through Miami-Dade County and sources that Chester and his group can bring to them. So we increase that down payment. That is going to decrease the cost of them getting into that home, which is now from $365, now we're dropping it down to maybe $325. Which is going to make the mortgage a little bit more affordable. So there are ways that we're looking at to make sure that folks get into this home and can afford it. And also, that's the highest model. Remember, we have two other models that are lower than the 365.
Thank you. That's a very good point, that, your calculation was based on a minimum down payment. But, I think we all share a lot of the other concerns as to look, to cost, to perception. And one other, and again, talking about cutting costs, and I know it's just a small component, but I'll go back to my analogy of finding coins in the couch cushions. There's a line item for irrigation. I personally believe irrigating grass is a waste of water. The first rain, it'll come back. So do we need to have the cost of irrigation built into all of these, and start really fly specking that? It's nice to have, but I don't think it's necessarily necessary, as an example. But, and I'll ask the representative from Minority Builders, is there a market for two-bedroom? Personally, I think trying to stuff 3 bedrooms in a single-family house of only 1,125 square feet is trying to stuff in too many bedrooms. It's only one house. Is there a market for a 2-bedroom home that 1,125 square foot home could be morphed into a 2-bedroom to be less crowded? Just a thought.
So, Mr. Chair, if you want, the answer would be with the housing market that we are experiencing now, with no real sign of slowing down, we can argue there's a market for anything with the shelter. We're seeing small, old, dilapidated homes having lines around the corner for open house. We're seeing some of the newer, bigger homes being sold for $400,000 and $500,000 that would have cost maybe $250,000 before. So this is a pretty significant escalation in housing costs that we're seeing in the resale and in the market. That's why we were very deliberate in setting this program up to yield affordable, new, attractive homes to the residents of the city of Homestead, such that they can enjoy all the amenities without the escalating costs. I do want to go back. There was another great point that was made, and that is that this program is not just a construction program. You have a significant amount of effort being allocated to home buyer engagement, home buyer education, home buyer qualification, and ongoing outreach to ensure that the first 4 home buyers who are selected make it from application to the closing table without doing anything that changes their qualifications with their mortgage company. So there's a lot of work in our experience that needs to be done with the buyers in this, and that's included in this program that we are proposing. So I'm glad the prior commissioner made that point, and I just want to make sure it's not lost here. The other point is, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, on the 2-bedroom, we envision these low and moderate income families experiencing all the benefits of homeownership, including the ability to, after 15 years and your deed restriction is up, to find a resale market so that their family can experience the wealth of appreciation, the wealth associated with appreciation. 2 bedrooms in a normal market are harder to sell than 3. But again, so far we're not in a normal market, everything is selling. But we want to base our projections upon what is normal, and we would prefer to provide a 3-bedroom house for a family of 4. That's another point. These projections are based upon a family of 4 in the residents of the Southwest neighborhood.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
May I add? I also want to make sure that we also keep in mind where these homes are going and what properties are surrounding it. The homes that are on 6th Street, There are shotgun house type models. The others are duplexes. There's a little multifamily. So you can put almost anything in that neighborhood, and it's going to look better than what's there. So these homes going there, it's going to brighten that community, make that community, it's going to do a lot to make an impact on that community. Not only aesthetically, but the property values, and it's even going to look better than the home that was just built and sold last year for $359,000 directly across the street. These far outweigh what's already over there. So as we're thinking, we're not putting these in another area. We're putting these in a low-income area. So I would hope that we would also think of that as well as we're talking aesthetically.
Thank you, appreciate that. Board Member Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of problems long-term with what we see here in front of us today. Again, to try and determine what affordable housing means is a pretty big deal, especially in our current economy. All of us should remember in 2007, the prices in Homestead were similar to what they are now. Then we had the crash. It took us a long time to get back up to where we currently are with new home sales and condos and things of that nature. What's to say that that doesn't happen again tomorrow? I understand construction costs have increased tremendously. The average cost to build a home in South Florida last year was $110 per square foot. You add 30% of that for current inflationary costs, that's $143 a square foot. My numbers were a little different than yours. I show 131 for the Palmetto model a square foot, 145 for the Legend model, and 186 for the Rose model. So you have disparaging cost per square foot. I understand the bigger the house, your cost goes down. But if you're building 4 houses at once, your costs are going to go down. I think we definitely need to look at the overall project, how this is going to go, because $110 a square foot on these properties, and this is full total square footage, not including AC, this is everything. $110 a square foot is $267,000 for the house. That's construction cost, and you're showing $318 for current costs. That's a big disparity. Trying to figure out what that number is. I think costs are going to continue to go up. I think we have to figure a way to lean into this a little deeper with, let's get some more input from some of our local vendors as well, local construction folks that do this on a day in, day out basis here in my Homestead. I'm not ready to support this tonight. I am here to further the conversation. I think we need to look at different options. But the costs right now are I think, too much to be considered affordable housing. That's my humble opinion.
Is that a motion to defer?
Did not make a motion to defer yet, and I wanted to see what others have to say.
Anything further before we may entertain a motion? Vice Chair.
I hear what you're saying, Board Member Fletcher. I do think that developers need to make their margins. And I don't think governments should try to squeeze them so bad that it keeps them from making their margins. Because again, they're taking all the risk. I think they're taking all the risk here. So I think developers need to make their margins. We just have to understand what the balance is for our city whenever we're talking about funds. But in this case, we're not talking about funds. The funds will be brought back into the city in a different manner. But I don't think we should have so much of an emphasis on what these costs are. I think we want to have it, I think we should be trying to gear our emphasis on the affordability aspect of that place and bringing a great quality product. Because on the one end, the higher the property sells, the better it is for that community and their property values. On the other end, there's not very many people that are going to be able to afford it. So you've got to find that kind of balance in between, but they both have benefits in different ways. The point I was trying to make here is we shouldn't squeeze developers so much that they're at risk of losing money. Because I think when they're making margins, they bring good quality stuff to the city, and it makes for good business when they do good quality stuff for the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Board Member Bailey?
Thank you, Chairman. So one thing to keep in mind is that this is land that we're currently sitting on that I believe none of us have a better idea than to have a first-time home buyer program for it, right? And in my 4 years here, I have never seen a program that looked at all the different aspects of what our community, my community in the Southwest, is lacking. We have all of these buyers from out of town with probably a lot of money buying these homes. The majority of my neighbors, there are at least 15, no, I won't say the majority of my neighbors. I have quite a few neighbors where there are at least 15 people living in that house. I think that's terrible. This is going to make sure that that does not happen because that landlord is not going to be able to qualify. I'm hoping you can confirm that, Mr. Johnson. And that was one of my questions is once we hand over the land, what happens to that resident who wants to sell? It would have to continue being somebody that qualifies in the same aspect. I think it's also in their best interest to have this program succeed so that we can continue working together. If the family qualifies, then they need to be able to afford their mortgage. You're not going to buy a home where they're going to tell you your rent is $2,500 and you know you're not going to be able to pay that. So I would like to trust, this is not my forte, but I would like to trust this program to be looking at all of these things that we're all equally concerned about because it's not going to work out for them if they're not able to find these home buyers. So I would hate to see this deferred. If there's a matter of putting something in that, I don't know what we could say for this to go forward, but the county program, those houses look very similar. I don't have an issue with the design. I would have liked to see the barrel tiles just because it just pushes that extra notch up. The design I think is nice. It's going to look very nice in the area. The design I do not have an issue with. So I'm not sure what else we need to talk about. If these are construction costs or close to them, what are we going to wait for? Another program that has a better deal with a construction company? Where are they? I would really like to see this go forward. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to reiterate that I'm fine with the design and architecture. I think for irrelevant of personal preferences on the architecture and aesthetics, for me, it's more of the long-term maintenance. You know, it costs more to maintain a more expensive facade and more expensive roof, window treatments, things like that. So for me, the long-term lower maintenance is better for the new homeowners. I'd like to be able to say that we partnered with XYZ builder and were able to provide homes at X% less than the market rate. Regardless of what the definition of affordability is, I think we can all agree that if we're partnering with an entity and we're able to put homes in our community at, let's say, 15, 20, 25% less than the going rate at that time, I think we can agree that that would be considered affordable. I don't know if Mr. Johnson is able to give us a percentage now. Maybe that's something he can come back with later. But in my initial support for this relationship and this partnership, it was because my understanding was that this entity would be able to provide the resources and the contacts and the experience to be able to execute that type of vision, where we are creating some affordable housing, where we are donating the land towards this project and coming out with a product where it is indeed measurably affordable and appropriate for the community. So maybe if we stop trying to, if we focus more on, okay, what is the blanket overall benefit to the community, then maybe we'll be okay with what the margins are and what we, letting go of the land, and that there is $100,000 there left over, and we're not going to be able to control it, but we can at least say that the partnership had a significant impact, and we can measurably say it. Does that make sense?
Board Member Roth.
Thank you. Whew, there's a lot of stuff going on here, isn't there? A lot of stuff. I agree with most of what I've heard. The cost to build seems to be a little high for me. This isn't an area that these properties would benefit the new homeowners. Curious question, I don't know if you know this or not, but what did those lots appraise at?
I can pull up the appraisals here real quick, but I want to say it was right around 20,000, a little over
Per lot?
20,000 per lot.
Per lot, okay. So that's an $80,000 contribution to the program, $80,000. And then, we talk about the potential homeowners and them having to qualify to purchase these homes, and the deed restrictions and the 15-year waiting period, so to speak. Why is that a requirement in this program if these people are, for the most part, paying market value for homes? Why would they have a deed restriction of 15 years where the next purchaser would have to also qualify for this program? My thought would be that the program builds a home and sells the home to a qualified, deserving family, but yet if something in their life changes, they can't go anywhere. They're kind of stuck for the 15 years because those people have to qualify again for the same program. And who would be controlling that, except for maybe a title company would dig that up at the end of the transaction saying, hold on a minute, you didn't qualify for this program. You make either way too much money or whatever the situation is, because I'm assuming that once the house is sold, it's removed, I guess, from their program and it just goes into home ownership. So to me, that would be a little bit of concern as well. The numbers to me do seem inflated. I don't want to argue that point anymore. That's been argued many times. So every developer and every organization that wants to build properties and wants to do their philanthropic work as well deserve to make a little bit of a profit. The skin in the game for the city is the $80,000 assessed value on those properties. I think we gain a little bit through additional tax revenues as these houses come online too. So there is some contributing factors there as well. I didn't hear anything about asking for any relief of impact fees, and costs that are associated with permitting through the city and things like that. So we'll get to enjoy those costs too. And I really think if we're talking about quote unquote affordable housing, we need to look, or they need to look at the final price, because I just think it is a little bit high for that neighborhood on these size lots. Although it's new construction, it's 21st century building, it's going to be all these things, but I still think if we're going to be promoting an affordable housing program in partnership with an organization, we need to set those standards now so that if we end up with more lots in the future, that we have a good understanding, and future councils will have an understanding of what we set the precedent as to be. So those are just my thoughts. I'm willing to go along with what my colleagues up here want to do as far as any requirements from the developer, which, by the way, I think it's kind of cool we get to see him, because we never usually get to see anybody online. So, and he's got a great smile, so he's probably a good salesman. Nice bow tie and all that. But
thank you so much.
But I just think that if we can come to some consensus to move forward and figure out a way to figure out the pricing of these units. I think we all agree that it's a little bit steep for the pricing for this neighborhood, and that would be my thoughts. Thank you.
Ms. Driver?
Mr. Chair, directly across the street from one of the homes that is going to be constructed, a home sold for $359,000 early last year. There's another home around the corner that sold within that same price range. So these numbers fit in the line with what is selling in the neighborhood. As hard as to believe as it is, there are homes over that are selling at that amount. There are homes selling, there are new homes that are being constructed right along in that same neighborhood that are priced at this amount and or higher, or anticipate to be priced higher. So far as the sell prices of these homes, it fits in what we're not doing anything new and setting a new bar. The bar is already set. It's the discussion about affordability, and that is nobody has a number that says this number, $299,000 for a house, that's the affordable amount. That's why we chose to do the formula based upon the salary and what can an individual afford based upon the amount of money that they are making, and following kind of along with what the county is doing. So we can come up with a number that we think is affordable to price our homes at, but it's really almost random if we're just kind of reaching up and just coming up with a number. That I would encourage us to stick with the formula, looking at household income and then what that household can afford in that matter. I also wanted to add that the reason why we wanted to include the deed restrictions and left it at 15 years, we're trying to preserve the integrity of the program. And the program is to encourage home ownership in the CRA area, particularly in the Southwest neighborhood, for residents that are currently living in that area. We don't want to gentrify the neighborhood. And if we don't put these restrictions in and someone moves in and they sell their home now they're selling for $500,000. Eventually what's going to happen is that neighborhood is going to become gentrified. The folk that are over there are going to be displaced. And I don't think that we as a city want to be a party to that. We want to make sure that we are protecting the individuals that are currently living in that neighborhood, or individuals that are like the demographic, meaning the income level that are over there, giving them some place where they know that they can live and they don't have to worry about being priced out of their home. So that was a reason, that was part of the thinking behind and why other programs do it too. So this is not something that we just thought of doing it. The county has done it, Broward County has done it, other CRAs has done it as well as far as maintaining those restrictions. Because we want the homes to stay affordable. We want low to moderate income families to be able to afford a home. That's kind of why this county and this nation is in the position that it's in now, that where low to moderate income individuals are having a struggle to find housing. So this is a way that we're trying to remedy that long term in only 15 years. And they can sell it. They just have to make sure the individuals meet these qualifications. And then lastly, you're right, Councilman Roth, we will gain from these homes coming online on the tax roll. We'll also gain from the taxable value of the neighboring properties increasing as well. We'll gain from now we have families there that will hopefully have some disposable income to be able to spend more in the city. We'll gain that now that we are beautifying this street, making it look better, making this neighborhood improve, that now we can maybe attract some new businesses, and unlike some of the corner stores that we have over there. Let's generate some new businesses that are coming in. We're also hoping that it's going to then attract new developers. There's other land that's available. There's other privately owned land that some developers can come in and purchase. So great, maybe that'll attract them to come in and invest in the area now that they see that the city is investing, that there are new homes popping up in the neighborhood. So.
May I? Chair? Okay, so you've given us some examples of properties that have sold, okay, but that's market value homes, okay? We're not talking about market value, we're talking about affordable housing. So you have to be able to draw a distinction between they're going to pay full market value, or are we going to give them a product that's affordable? It's two different things. It's not the same. So I don't care if they sold for $500,000 across the street. If they did, we probably wouldn't have been having this conversation anyways. But the fact that a house sold for $359, $369, whatever the number was, has nothing to do with the conversation I think we're having today when it comes to affordable housing. Because if those people are buying in the neighborhood at $359, then they don't need us to help them. Other developers will come in, they'll buy the raw land, and they'll develop. So I have a hard time with that argument. The deed restrictions, I can live with that part of it. The example that really struck me wrong was that they're selling for $359 already, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give these people an opportunity in life to buy a new home, first-time home buyer, and to where they're not going to be, jeopardizing of going into foreclosure. I'm assuming that they're not doing the lending themselves. So on page 28 of 50, it also, when you brought in those income calculations you talked about earlier, it does talk about a 35% gap or maximum to their income ratio, including utilities. So now we have taxes, insurance, utilities, on top of a potential $340,000 a month mortgage, which is going to run somebody at 4%, probably about $1,600 a month. So now you're talking about a payment, if you were conservative, at $200 a month for utilities, $200 a month for taxes, and $200 a month for insurance, conservatively, because those numbers are probably going to be higher. Okay, you're looking at about a $2,400 to $2,600 a month payment. Okay, you multiply that just by 3, you're talking about $2,652, $72, $7,800 a month in income that they're going to be required to make, which is far over $60,000 a year. So those are other things that, I think about when somebody's pitching us a product. Give us all the information. Don't give us part of it, because we've only gotten part of it at this point. You can't put somebody in that house that makes $50,000 a year. The top house at $359,000. So those are just my thoughts, and what I think, the realism is. I get what he wants to do. I understand that they're going to put these 3 properties in place, or 4 properties in place. They're going to use some of that income to go back into the community and set up an organization that they've got in other places, which is going to be beneficial to our community. I get that part, okay? But it also has to be not on the back of these people that are trying to buy their first affordable house. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Board Member Fletcher.
Yeah, so I appreciate your clarity on that, Board Member Roth. I think you basically got my point across a lot more eloquent than I could have. I struggle with, again, just the affordability numbers. That's the hard part for me. And not to disagree with you, Vice Chair, but we sit here and we look at people that qualify for something, and then a year later, they're being foreclosed on. Qualifications and income are 2 different things. And I think it is under our best interests as the council here to look out for both the city and the person who's moving into the city. Again, I'm not against this program. I think we have to fine-tune these numbers to ensure. I know you have to make a profit, sir. I understand that. But we can't do it on the backs of somebody that can barely make the payments. I'll put it very generally. I went to the grocery store on Sunday. Same things I buy every time. 6 months ago was $180. This time, $300. So cost increase, I get it. What's going to be the cost if we push this off for 2 months? Who knows, up or down? I just think we need to dive into the numbers a little deeper. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Councilman Roth's point, or Board Member Roth's point about the real numbers, I think that's tied to, the real world concerns that Board Member Bailey asserted that really all over, certainly at least the west side of Homestead, is that homeowners, given the cost of housing, are required to have relatives and non-relatives, not renting rooms, but renting bed space in a home. And that's not really what we want to promote. We want to promote families enjoying their homes and comfortably affording them. And I have concerns that and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm concerned that at these price points that are before us tonight, that we're not going to create that situation. We're going to potentially create multifamily occupancy of single-family homes. And again, I think that comes back to the affordability. Board Member Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for reminding me, Board Member Roth, about the challenges with the deed restrictions. I shared that with you over the phone, that the deed restrictions will pose in the future challenges for the buyers. I think it will cause a devaluation of the property when you're trying to find the right buyer to fit the house under these deed restrictions. And so now you're having an adverse effect where you were growing value and now your pool of potential buyers is restricted, which can cause your price to go down. I think that if we're contributing the $10,000 through our homeownership assistance program, that already has a 10-year requirement for the family to stay there. It'd be your primary residence for at least 10 years. So I'm fine with eliminating the deed restrictions if that's an option. I think that by the time construction actually happens, prices are going to be completely different on the construction cost. So I'm not really focusing on the line items. I'd like to be able to say that at the end of the day, the price was, let's say, 10% less than the appraised value at that time. How they figure out how to build it, where they find their costs and where their final numbers end up and what those proceeds look like, I would be satisfied with being able to say we approved this transaction where we donated the land, we brought in a partner to build the property, and we were able to get it to a homeowner within our community, and they were able to buy it affordably at 10% less than the appraised value. How does that sound to some of you guys?
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chair?
Do we
Mr. Chair, if I may?
yes, I'm sorry.
So that 35% is in the deed restriction. That was staff. That wasn't NBC that included that. So if the board wishes, we can strike that 35%. We don't have to have that in there at all. And if we want to ask NBC to value engineer the project and change it to where the sale price is lower, we can do that. Just understand that what you're seeing before you, as far as models in the home, that's not what we're going to get. It's going to look drastically different, and the amenities are going to be different. So the quality of the home that these new homeowners will be purchasing will be lower standard than what I wished for them to have. But I'm sure that there's, and Brian, you can chime in, if we need to value engineer and reduce it down and give a lower standard home so that we can give a $300,000 sale price, and then I would need the board to give guidance. What is it that you all would like to see as far as the sale prices? So at least NBC would have some idea of where to start and where they need to get to when they're value engineering. If 365, going with the larger model, is, in your opinion, not where we want to be. So we would need direction from you as to how to go. But I think Brian he wants to say something, Mr. Chair.
If I may, before he begins on that response, thank you. I'm not suggesting that we provide substandard housing for this project. What I'm suggesting is that maybe out of the $30,000 profit net proceeds per unit that I see there, that perhaps 10% of that can go back to the reducing of the price. I mean, that's just one example on how to pass a savings and an affordability that's measurable that we can create as a standard in this project to the actual homeowner. And with regards to the deed restrictions, I still like the idea of having certain boxes that have to be checked off in order to qualify to be in the position to buy the home too. So, and I think under the down payment assistance program that we have for that $10,000 down payment, we already have that in place too. So, all right, thank you. I'll rest there.
And Ms. Driver, let me ask you, again, not to belabor the point or open a whole other can of worms tonight. I understand that this is only 4 homes, but I don't want to diminish that meaning of only 4 to those 4 families who are going to be faced with the benefit of home ownership in the future. But I say only 4 because right now I know we have a program of $10,000 apiece of down payment assistance. have we looked at or have we considered, and I truly believe it's an available use, is sweetening that down payment by another $5,000 from the rescue money that has a housing component in it, that for these 4 houses, that would only be a $20,000 allocation from the rescue money to help folks lower their mortgage payment. And we looked at that.
We have had conversations about it, but we have not brought anything yet to the council. I'll let city manager speak to that.
Yes, Mayor, staff has been talking about it, and that's definitely something we're working on to bring it back to council when we have an opportunity. And like you were saying, not to belabor the point, I think what would have helped staff here a lot if what we could determine what you believe to be affordable housing is. You know, is it 10% below market cost, 15, 20%, which I think will go a long way to helping staff work with the developer and bringing back a product that I think will be a win-win for everyone.
Mr. Chair, if I may, in addition to, or maybe in lieu of the ARPA money, we could look in our CRA budget and we could increase the down payment assistance, you know, by 5,000, 10,000 even. So now that we're giving them 20,000. And so we're more than happy to do that. So, and that might be the answer to getting the house down and getting affordable, getting families in, is if we give them more at the down payment assistance. So we're not opposed to that. We can find that money.
Would that impact those borrowers' ability, though, to go to the county and to other sources?
No.
So it's not a dollar amount.
No, they can stack the
Impediment.
funds. So, yeah.
If I may, the county's maximum purchase price is right around $280,000, so that puts at least 3 of the houses out of the 4 off the table.
I do believe.
Because the maximum loan amount that the county will allow is HUD's max loan amount of $172,000. I can share that.
I was going to say, I do believe there are other programs as well, that the down payment assistance program, that don't have that maximum sale price that they can tap into. But, we'd be more than happy to add another $10,000 to the assistance for per home.
I would encourage staff to look at that because, you know, and again, I think that it was the vice chair focused on it. You know, we're not here to decide what's affordable. What's affordable is dependent upon your income. And we want to have a wide range of income folks into homeownership, but not burdened by homeownership. So to the extent we can do that. And again, that sweetening the pot of the down payment with some of our in-house monies that are the fund that we already have, that's a conversation we can have later once and I'm assuming this is going to go forward, that is one way to lessen the financial burden of the ownership of any of these 4 homes.
And Mr. Chair, also, we do have CDBG money that's set aside for first-time home buyers. So we have funds that are readily available to us to be able to move forward, you know, right now in increasing that without the ARPA. And then once we have a conversation about ARPA, then that'd be great because we can do even more homes. But we do have CDBG funds available and then some CRA funds that we can do to increase the assistance.
Seems like that is the path to take as construction and purchase contracts take place. Okay. Vice Chair.
I want to let you know that the prices, the market rate prices for the houses in that area within 1 mile that have sold in the last 6 months are between $275 to $345. $345. Individual developers that purchase a vacant lot, it's around 5,000 square feet. If you put that property on the market at $45,000 right now, it'd sell in less than 5 days. And people are buying and people are constructing. So if I were going to take a bite at the apple and try to define what affordable housing is in this area, it would be 15% off of the numbers I've just provided. So if you were going to go from 275 to 345, you would say, 275 being the base, then 300, and then 345, and then take 15% off that.
What value would you give as an adjustment for new construction and the higher, the finishings? Because the 275 to 345 comparable is based on existing construction, aged housing, not new construction and new furnishings. So what
Not new construction, aged housing. The newest one was 2017. So if you were gonna do new construction, there'd be a premium on there. But if you were within that range, that once we find that number, take 15% of that, and that's the incentive that we consider affordable housing, in my opinion, for that area. So we can get specific on what we're defining as affordable there.
I've always said that's very important, that we all are working from the same definition. Absolutely so. And that's going to be an important conversation for density conversations next week. All right. So where do we go from here?
I'd like to make a motion to defer the item to give them time to come back and touch on these items. And I'd like to see how we can get the price within a 10 to 15% affordability reduction.
Ms. Driver said that any line item that you remove from here, it takes away from the quality of the product, of the end product. So we could either stick with these numbers that they have, and that is that's the best aesthetically looking property for that area, or if we want to go in the direction of affordable to make it really easy for some of these people to buy, then it's not going to look as aesthetically pleasing because they're just going to remove line items from this list.
So are you saying to offer an additional 15%, aside from the contribution of the land, offer a 15% grant towards the purchase transaction to build that in versus reducing it on the construction side?
It's all, I believe it's all on where we have the most desire, or the desire in which direction we want to go. Do we want to stick to the 359, the prices that the way they are here, like Councilwoman Bailey mentioned, or because she's right, we do things on a certain side, not over here. So if we're trying to increase, aesthetics in a certain area, then let's get the same product. So, in my opinion, if we could get the price down 15% without removing any of the line items, I'd be extremely happy. But it's not possible.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and Brian will be able to chime in. I had some conversations with him about this very thing. How can we get this price down, but yet I want the amenities up? I want the house to look better. I want it to look nice. Don't give me a cheap product because we deserve better, but also lower the price. And this is where we ended. I think that, and may I ask Councilwoman Avila, if the price is still at $365 and now we're offering just our money alone, the CRA, $20,000 down payment assistance, which is now bringing it down for them to get into the house, is now $345 plus whatever they bring in out of their pocket, plus whatever they bring in from other resources. That's going to continue to lower that price point. Is that something that we can work with? Because affordable, and Matt can chime in with this as well, affordable is defined more than just how much the price of the house is. It's how much, it takes into consideration them being able to get into the house. So $20,000 is helping them get into it, and whatever else they can get from the county. And Matt, would you have something?
No, my suggestion, I've been listening to the discussion intently, and it seems like we want to maintain quality. We want to ensure that the homeowner isn't burdened, and we're not ready to move forward tonight. So to piggyback on what the city manager has suggested in terms of direction, there's a top line number on affordability. You're looking at the price of the house, and then I think to the point that Kamitra is trying to make, which was, we can bridge the gap in affordability by perhaps exploring options for additional down payment assistance and seeing what other programs would be available. And so to address your concerns, perhaps direction could be to explore those programs that would help close that gap, and bring additional funds to the table, either through our own programs or others. I know Board Member Avila, you mentioned some concerns with the county program and the pricing, but there may be others. And maybe we'll work with NBC, who are experts in this. This is what they do. And maybe staff can work to see if we can bridge the gap in that way and come back to you and, explain, well, all right, this is what a reduction in cost would be. This would be the impact on the price, but here's how we can make that up. And if that's the information you're seeking, I think that would give staff some direction as to how to bring this back to you and present it in a way to address your concerns. For my own part, if I could have edification, if you're going to move forward or defer this, if I could get a clarification on the deed restrictions and what you want or don't want, if you would like them removed in their entirety, that would be helpful just for me in the preparation of whatever we do going forward.
Chairman.
Board Member Roth.
Thank you. The word just popped up a minute ago, and that the word is grant. And I would be okay with a deed restriction on giving them a $20,000 grant to help them get into this property. And then at the sale of the property, whenever that occurs, that grant gets paid back to the city. Because over time, they're going to appreciate, the house is going to appreciate in value, and that $20,000 is not going to hurt them, and it's not going to keep them from moving out. Knowing that the city actually helped me get into this house, and if the developer would figure a way to chisel 5% off of the proposed sales prices, and then I think now we're talking about a program that works for somebody who's trying to purchase their first home in an affordable way. We help them, the developer helps them, the city helps them, and maybe it's somebody that couldn't otherwise buy a home because of the incentives of the grant. Maybe you put a deed restriction 15 years, maybe it goes away after that, I don't know. That's for people to figure out. But I think I like that aspect better than trying to destroy this guy's profit margin, because I know he's going to use some of that money and put it back into the community. I know that. I have faith in him. He's a 50-year-old company. We don't know half of the stuff that these guys have done over the years, but I'm sure they're going to reinvest some of that money into the community as well, which is going to be beneficial. And those people that may get that opportunity to get that grant to buy a brand new constructed home that's more affordable because of trimming 5% off of the price, which is maybe $15,000 or so, $10,000 off each of those houses. And I think then we get to a different place. Now, if he finds that his costs are lower, then he can lower the cost of these houses over time. Because by the time we get through this process, it gets through development services. It's probably 4 or 5 months before you start building anyways, clearing land and doing all the things they got to do over there. So I think the grant is the optimal thing that really, truly helps this whole scenario. I think that's the winner there, because we can control that. We can control how much it is. We can control the length of time. If we feel like we need to get that money back to keep going with another program in the future, everybody, you can decide that. That's fine. But I think that's the optimal thing. Get that grant, and then we're going to do it anyways. We're going to give them $10,000. We'll just make it 20 and make it a grant where it's payable back, because I don't think the $10,000 is payable back to us. So we can collateralize it against the property, and we get that money back in the future. So that's just a thought for me. Thank you.
Member Avila.
Thank you. What he's referring to would be that soft second that we have with the down payment assistance program. So the $10,000, we do get it repaid after, if they were to sell within the 10-year period. So after 10 years, it satisfies itself. So it becomes like a forever, a grant versus a lien, right? right? So it stays on the property as a lien for the first 10 years, and then we get it paid back. So that works. I mean, it's whether there are state of Florida other grants that can be found. I'm coming into this discussion under the assumption that MBC has the wherewithal and the knowledge and the partnerships and the credentials to work with other lending institutions to bring third-party grants to the table to help reduce the cost of the out-of-pocket and overall price of the home for the buyer. So I'm not saying that MBC has to reduce from the 30,000 net proceeds. That's just one example of how the price can be cut. But if at the end of the day the buyer's loan amount is not exceeding 85% of the price, then that's 15% that came from someone else other than the borrower. We're contributing the land. That's $80,000 between all 4 properties. We're also giving another $10,000 on top of that. Let MBC use their expertise to help bridge the rest of that gap. And I have confidence that they'll be able to do that because that's the whole point of this. They're a nonprofit. They have the home lending contacts. They have the financing plans in place, and they know what grants are available. And these borrowers will be able to qualify for all of those programs if they're within that 30% debt-to-income ratio on the housing, and if they're within the HUD brackets for the household income. My comment earlier about the 280 price point, that's specifically the county MD program. There are plenty of other programs out there, but it does require the lender being able to be certified and working directly with those programs and those agencies to get the money to the table for funding. So do you think, Mr. Johnson, that you would be able to secure down payment assistance between all the avenues discussed equal to 15%?
Yes, well, absolutely, we will assist. As a matter of fact, that's what we have started already by contributing what becomes $10,000. So when we're talking about reducing the quality of the home by value engineering, we did the opposite way. We provided an opportunity for them to get free upgrades to the house of $5,000 that we would pay for. So that's the first half. The second half is we are also giving them $5,000 towards their closing. So add our $5,000 to the pot as well. But I do want to go back because there's a couple of perspectives that were provided I want to provide additional context to. In terms of the sales prices compared to the value of other homes in the very same area, we did a detailed analysis of homes of like size amenities in the area. And we started our sales prices 8 months ago at double digits or less than market value. That was before you've had the substantial increase in market prices since then. So I'm confident that we're already 15% or less, but if we want to confirm that by doing another analysis of what sales look like now, I'm going to feel even better, because as time has passed and more homes have sold for these exorbitant amounts, it's going to make our sales prices look a whole lot better. The second point is I want to put this profit margin that we keep referring to in context. The standard developer fee in the private market is 15%. There are some developers who will go as much as 18, 25. The gentleman mentioned earlier that if you put these lots on the private market, he's absolutely right. You can put a $70,000 price tag on it and somebody will buy it. And of course, you know that when they buy it for $70,000 for the lot, they're going to add that to the price of the house, which means they're not building a house for the people that we're talking about, because the people that we're talking about won't be able to afford that house. That's why we applaud you all for even having this affordable housing discussion, because we are contemplating voluntary restrictions on the money that we can all be getting, because we think the right thing to do is to help people who are locally afforded. So if the standard developer fee is 15%, the Rose model, the Palmetto model, from what you see in terms of net proceeds, is a 8.6%. The Legend model is 9.4%, and it is the Rose where we cross 10 at 11.8%. So we're already substantially lower than what a private developer normally gets on an average, where there are some now doing 18, 25%. So I just want to make sure we're keeping all of those things in mind as we're moving forward this discussion. And then the last thing is, I mentioned to you all in my initial discussion and presentation, putting on my old elected officials hat, that if this was just an issue of getting new houses on these lots, this could have been a much shorter, much easier conversation. You put it out to the private market, let people buy, let people build. They sell to whoever they sell to. You all benefit from the highest amount of taxes that can come back to you. And the reason many municipalities, more municipalities are starting to do that, what you all are commendably doing, because they're seeing that if you all don't do it, the market is going to leave, the fair market is going to leave a lot of these residents behind. So again, kudos to you all. But I want to be abundantly clear. There are not a lot of developers doing affordable housing because they don't like these conversations. They don't like somebody telling them how much they can sell their house for. They don't like somebody telling them how much money they can make. They don't like somebody telling them what conversation they can have with their buyers. If the buyer wants solar panels, as long as they want to pay for it, they're going to get solar panels. So we're having this discussion because we're trying to fit our aspirations of low and moderate income families having the benefit of home ownership into a lot of the what are now looking like competing aspirations, but we can reconcile many of them. But I just want to make sure that we continue to level set our expectations, because the proper control group for what we're discussing is the fair market. It is absolutely appropriate to compare what we're saying to the fair market, because then you'll see that what we've designed as a program, what we propose as a developer, is substantially more beneficial to these 4 buyers and others than what they would have to face in the fair market.
Thank you. If I can counter, I appreciate it. So what I'd like to see is for our director to be able to go into an agreement that stipulates, and just for the record, I want to say it, that the price does not exceed the appraised value, right? So sometimes you have to sell a little higher to cover costs. So for the record, the price will not exceed the appraised value.
Yes.
And then secondly, for the max loan amount, not to exceed 90% of the price. So right there, you're going to need to find 10% down payment assistance grants from third parties. And then an overall, and my third stipulation would be a minimum 15% total down payment assistance, which could be a combination of our $10,000, the $5,000 from the developer going towards the closing costs. So he said multiple times he is confident he can bring 15% third-party grants and down payment assistance to the table, but I want to make sure that that's not being eaten up by closing costs, and that at least 10% of that is going directly to the borrower's purchase price, buying down that purchase price of the loan amount is not more than 90%. So for me, that would be considered affordable, because you're buying it at market price, 10% below market price, basically. So your principal, your interest is going to be based on 90% of that fair market price.
So in terms of down payment assistance, the developer gives $10,000. Miami-Dade County, Medit would not Medit. So then we, the city,
It would be a different third-party down payment assistance. So MDET would be an example of one. There's many out there in the state of Florida, but MDET has a restriction for the price, so we can't use MDET as the example. They know what's out there. There's HPD, PHCD, things like that.
And may I also say, I'm sorry for interrupting, that our partner HFA is an MDET provider, so we're very familiar with all of the programs. And I want to be clear also that our plan program has as a fundamental standard feature of us working with programs like MDET, as well as private lenders who offer first-time home buyer mortgages, who also bring incentives for either closing costs and purchase assistance. So I'm confident that we will assist in helping each buyer find even more money than what the city and what we are going to be contributing.
So Councilwoman Avila, explain to me your down payment again, so I can write it down.
So it's 15% down payment assistance that'll be secured through the lending partners, which would include $10,000 from our own down payment program that we have. Okay? No, No, we have a City of Homestead down payment assistance program. It's $10,000, and it's a second lien on the property. So 15% total assistance minimum, and then 10% of that, 15 is going to go towards buying down the price so that the loan amount does not exceed 90% of the price. And of course, the price will not exceed fair market appraised value at the time. So I'm not looking at construction costs. I'm not looking at the price of the developer, and that actually has a safety net in there where they're not getting 15% down payment assistance funds and putting it all towards closing costs, because there is a difference between down payment and closing costs and your cash to close, which is a combination of the two. So,
So how do you control that happening other than Mr. Johnson saying he's confident he's going to work with buyers? I mean, are there any specific measures you put in place?
no, the measures are already there. The programs exist. His expertise is why we're going forward and with this partnership, is because they have the knowledge on how to bring that money to the table for these first-time home buyers, low-income buyers that qualify for these programs. And he's asserted that. And my understanding is that you're comfortable with those contingencies, correct, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I just want to say, yes, ma'am, I'm comfortable with the 90% because in almost all of the homes we built, every home buyer has moved in with more than 10% equity. So I'm comfortable there. I'll be uncomfortable going any further than that and trying to prescribe how we get to that point, because there may be some competing qualifications for the additional home buyer programs that will probably give them more than 10, more than 15, sometimes $40,000, but they want to obviously be in second position. So there may be some competing eligibility criteria that we'll try to work out, but I'm okay with the 90% and making sure that their mortgages no more than 90% of the sales price. But I would want to be cautious about placing a cap on, or give it or getting too deep into the weeds of how we get to even 15%, because then that number becomes 85 if you put that 15% in there. So I like the 90. I like getting us with the, but I'm sorry, let me for it. Is it 90 on our sales price or 90 on the fair market value? Because our sales price is going to already be 10% less than fair market. So we're going with another 10% where they're going to have a mortgage no more than 80% of fair market? Or can you clarify that for me, please?
If you're saying that your final purchase price is going to be 10% less than the appraised value at that time, then that takes care of this whole conversation, at least for me, because now I can say this buyer has purchased this property for 10% less than current market value.
I believe what Mr. Johnson has mentioned throughout the conversation is that the prices that he's put before us today are already 10% below market value.
You just read
or more,
us,
correct.
You just read us some comparables of 275 to 345, and this is 265, 325, and 359. So they're kind of
mine were not on new construction though. So there's a premium when there's
Correct.
new construction.
And these prices are fixed. You're telling me at the time of CO, this price will not change. This is a guaranteed price. I doubt it, because there has to be measures in place to capture changes. Impossible.
That's in the agreement.
So we will not hear back like
They'll
a
not
price
exceed.
change, and
They're fixed.
the discussion for me, as I said a couple times already, if there is a 10%, if a measurable percentage value below market price, and that this appraisal, right, would be 15% higher than these prices, I'm good with that.
Tian?
Mr. Chair, can just for clarification,
Yes.
so are we increasing our assistance to 20,000 with CRA and CDBG funds? I mean, we have it, and if we have it available.
I think our contribution of the $80,000 towards the project is enough, and our $10,000 down payment assistance is enough.
Well, just
There's less, the price is going for less, or 10% less than market value.
understood. I mean, just offering and wanted clarification on that. And just by way of discussion, as an example, Broward County gave $45,000 in down payment assistance, plus an additional $20,000 for remediation of the land. So what we're asking for, or going up to 20,000, it wouldn't be anything extraordinary. So just FYI.
Broward got better looking product.
Actually, I'm sorry. Actually, the products that you're receiving are quality products that were selected. Those models are absolutely quality products. Everything we built have received high satisfactions from the families who moved in, from the partners that we had with the county and with Lauderhill. And the Lauderhill homes, which I believe you're referring to, Mr. Mayor, are not technically affordable. So yeah, we value engineer them so that we can cut about $60,000-$70,000 off the construction price to make what designs they paid for closer to affordable. But those homes are way more expensive than the ones that we're contemplating. And again, I think that if I had my druthers, everybody would do kind of what the county did, as what Ms. Driver did. And I do want to remind you that I'm preaching what I've already practiced as an elected official. We have 20 lots in the city of West Park. I pulled aside 5 of those lots to designate for a nonprofit developer. The city is going to contribute $20,000 for each lot for remediation to reduce the pre-construction costs, and then the county is going to kick in up to $40,000 in purchase assistance, and in my small city. So that's kind of what's happening now, and that's how much cities and nonprofit organizations like us are having to collaborate to chase this changing wave of affordability, because market prices are just getting so high. So we got to become more aggressive to help families afford houses nowadays.
Thank you. All right. Now that our discussion on this first item tonight has totally blown out the staff betting pool on how fast we were going to get out of here tonight, do we have a motion on this item?
I motion to approve it with the stipulation that the borrower's loan amount does not exceed 90% of the purchase price or appraised value, whichever is less, and that the additional down payment assistance is sourced by MVC's partners, that they don't come back to us and say, we need to bridge the gap. We need them to do that sweat equity and bring the other partners to the table. And we don't have any problems with subordinating to third or fourth link position. It's our land, it's our people, it's our town. Does that make sense on my motion, Matt?
Yeah, also if we can get clarification, did we land on the deed restrictions being removed from this particular agreement, and you were more comfortable with including them in the down payment assistance? Is that where we were on the deed restrictions? Just
my motion is to include removal of the deed restrictions because we have that lien on the property for repayment within that 10-year period, should it be resold. So that's a protection there in place. Because the deed restriction would just duplicate that.
And extend by 5 years.
And extend it by 5 years. So then our mortgage document would just read 15-year period instead of a 10-year period. So that's fine. We can make it 15 years. So to be repaid back to the CRA if it were to be resold within 15 years.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. What if we have a buyer who has all the funds for down payment and for some unforeseen reason they decide they don't want our down payment assistance program? Then they will be able to purchase this home and they won't have any restrictions on the property. Are we okay with that?
How do they check all the boxes to be able to qualify to buy the home if they don't need the down payment assistance?
They could have money from outside enough to cover their down payment to qualify, for themselves, and decide that, you know what, I don't want your restriction of I can't sell this home for 15 years, so I don't want your $10,000 down payment assistance. I don't need it because I've been wise and saved up all my money, and I can afford to get into the home without it. Then now we're selling them the home, and they have no restrictions on the property whatsoever.
Why would they if they've not availed themselves of our benefit? Why would there be a restriction?
I agree.
But then right, but then we run I mean, I'm okay with it if you want, but just then we run the risk of somebody buying a house, leasing it out, living there for a year or whatever, and then turning it into a rental property, which negates what we're trying to do is increase home ownership. People the homes are owner occupied, we're trying to increase that in the CRA. So they could now in turn rent it out, they could sell it for a higher price and now driving up the price in the neighborhood. So
And I don't want to get rid of the home ownership component. That, I think, is, for me, the ownership restriction needs to remain in place.
So what I understood was that, Councilwoman Avila, maybe I misunderstood, was moving that we eliminate all the restrictions, deed restrictions that we have.
I'll tell you,
Did I
in the 15
misunderstand?
years that I've been in lending, I've never had a first-time home buyer that is looking for a discounted price, a subsidized property that was able to find, just in the down payment alone, because we're saying max loan amount of 90%, not closing costs, and on new construction, closing costs are always higher, $35,900, which would be the Palmetto model. So if you have a buyer that's applying to buy this home and they have $40,000 cash plus the extra money they need for down payment assistance, then I think there's a problem with the eligibility criteria that is allowing them to be eligible for the property. That's going to make me want to see and dive deeper into how are we identifying the person is actually needy, needy and qualifies for this property, because we're not in the business of giving out our land to a developer to sell it at market rate for somebody who really doesn't need our help. So there's how do you save up 40,000 plus? I get it, there's gifts, there's other ways to do it, but it's not common. I mean, you're going to put a 15-year deed restriction, and now for me, home ownership includes being able to go up the property ladder and eventually sell your property and buy something better instead of being stuck like Board Member Roth said. Now you're stuck there for 15 years. I mean, come up with a better idea. How do we guarantee the home ownership component without keeping the buyer stuck?
Board Member Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's simple. This is a first-time home buyer program from the City of Homestead, and it comes with $10,000 and this restriction.
We require them to use the $10,000.
I think so. I don't think there's a simpler way. This is a program that we're trying out. It's, we can learn from a mistake if we see something that happens, but we can't take the chance of it turning into something that we didn't plan on.
So waiving the $10,000 down payment assistance from our program is not an option. So it would have to be required to be used, which is fine with me. That's a simple way to do it. Thank you.
So we have a motion and Matt, you're clear on the stipulations in the motion.
We're sticking now with the borrower's loan-to-value ratio cannot exceed 90%. You'll have the removal of these deed restrictions within the contract with MBC, but we will require that all purchasers utilize the city's down payment assistance program. Will in effect have those criteria that bind the property to the owner occupied and the things that we normally include in those subordinated loan documents. Do I have it?
All right, just one question.
There's a motion and a second. Board Member Roth, yes.
Just one question. The 10% differential between market value and appraised value, just so it's clear, the buyer doesn't have to make up the difference if there's a shortfall. They have to do it through some down payment assistance, through us, through whomever, but I don't want to see them penalized if something would freakishly happen in the future that the properties don't appraise, and now it's a requirement that there's a 10% gap, and he can't sell a property because that person won't qualify. They don't have enough money to put down in the program. So
Right, so it's the lower of the two, either the price, 90% of the price or the appraised value, whichever is lower, which is standard financing. You can't borrow more than what it's worth. So that 10% gap for the down payment itself would have to be sourced by a third-party grant. And they're all going to go based on the appraised value or the price, whichever is less.
okay, I got it.
Vice Chair.
And to Ms. Driver, you saw how this conversation went so long, and it was a lot wrapped around the price. That's where all of the that's where a lot of the barriers started. So I think moving forward, I think when developers come to you and they're using the standard style of development, these prices are always going to be that high, these construction costs. So I think we might want to consider alternative building standards to see where we could get quality construction that passes Florida building code, yet we could reduce the price dramatically in terms of materials. In case, if we continue doing this with other infill lots in the future. So this is kind of like a pilot program that we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, let's have a roll call vote on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, before we take final action, I don't know if you want to call for public comment. I believe that somebody did want to weigh in.
Do I want to call for public comment? Not really, but I see that we've got someone in the back with their hand up. If you could get a microphone to him. It's all of you who have had to endure this conversation for the last 2 hours. Famous last words to my wife, I won't be late.
Yes, I have a comment. If you look into the income structure in Homestead, and you do it on Google, many people use Google, the income in Homestead is $62,592. And household income in this corner of we are talking about is $47,000. And with an income of $47,000, will you be able to afford that house? And also, what happens if the guy or the party moving into that house all of a sudden have to foreclosure? What happened with it? What happened with the money that you guys put up with if they can't pay? They don't pay their mortgage. What happened? Also, how many of those houses that the gentleman up on the screen have provided over those 51 years, how many of them have succeeded? What is the success rate? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. Any other public comment, either online or in the audience? So we'll close the public hearing, and I'll call for a roll call vote.
Board Member Fletcher?
No.
Board Member Roth?
Yes.
Board Member Abela?
Yes.
Board Member Bailey?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Losner?
No.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Let's move forward and build some houses.
Thank you.
Next item is tab 3. Our number 3453, Housing Rehabilitation Grant for 827 Northwest 4th Avenue. Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tab number 3 is a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the allocation of residential emergency home repair grant program funds, approving a grant agreement, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Driver?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. On December 16, 2021, the Southwest Advisory Committee recommended the approval of Claudia Rojas's grant for bathroom and electrical repairs to her home. Staff recommends that the CRA Board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a housing rehabilitation grant in the amount up to $15,000 to Ms. Claudia Rojas at 827 Northwest 4th Avenue, Homestead, Florida, 33030.
Thank you. Are the property owners present, just out of curiosity? Are they with us
Yes,
tonight?
Ms. Rojas is here.
Before we have council discussion, is there anything you'd like to say? If we need you to come up to the podium, then only if you wish, not necessary. Not a condition of being awarded. Okay. Well, we understand. Understand. Public speaking is an acquired taste. All right, board members? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. Um, So we heard Ms. Rosa speak at our last BLAC meeting, and just a little background, she seems very, very happy living in Homestead, as you can see from the pictures, living in some not very great circumstances right now. So I am very happy to do this, and thank you for your commitment to Homestead and your being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And, knowing what was coming, I kept thinking about this application as we had some of the discussions in the last item where I think Mr. Johnson talked about that people would line up to pay a lot of money for any kind of roof over their head. And when I see the pictures of the condition of the home that you and your partner paid $200,000 for in April of, I guess, 2020, it really drives home the point and is really, is a good reminder of how tight that market is out there, and we're going to do what we can do that no one has to live in those conditions, whether it be in a county apartment facility or in a single-family home. So, again, congratulations, and we hope you can move quickly for your sake and the sake of the neighborhood. So, do we have a motion to approve this item? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, second by Councilwoman Avila. Roll call. Or is there anyone
Member
wishing to
Bailey?
speak on this matter? All right, we'll close the public hearing and have a roll call vote.
Board Member Bailey?
Yes.
Board Member Roth?
Yes.
Board Member Avila? Board Member Fletcher?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Guzman?
Yes.
Chairman Losner?
Yes. All right. Ms. Driver, anything further?
No, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Estrada?
Nothing, Mayor.
Okay, no, I won't. I see I didn't call you Madam Manager out of habit.
And I appreciate that.
That day will come. Okay. Any final comments from the board? Any further? Okay. I don't think there are any reports, any further public comments. If none, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. All in favor, and we will reconvene in 5 minutes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Today is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. This is the City of Homestead Committee of the Whole meeting. It is 7:58 p.m. The city will hold a hybrid Committee of the Whole meeting. The public may participate in person at City Hall or virtually utilizing video conference via WebEx events or the toll-free conference call number. Please go to cityhomestead.com/calendar for specific details and instructions on participation utilizing video and telephonic conferencing. The meeting can also be viewed live on the City Access Channel or city website at cityofhomestead.com. Public comments can be made in person at the meeting or emailed to publiccomments@cityofhomestead.com. Written public comments are limited to 300 words per comment. Written public comments on specific agenda items, including your name, address, and item you would like to comment on, and your comment can be submitted by noon Monday, January 10th, 2022, and will be included in the minutes. Written public comments on general matters should include your name, address, and your comment. It can be submitted up until 30 minutes after the end of the Committee of the Whole meeting and will be included in the minutes. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth,
Here.
Councilwoman Avila,
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey, Vice Mayor Guzman, Mayor Losner.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Assistant Manager, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
No, Mayor, there are none.
Okay, thank you. All right, first item of business is the approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes of December 7th, 2021. We have a motion for approval, moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item is motion to place car number 3451, the use of City Hall Plaza for special events. Is that you, Mr. Estrada?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Homestead Main Street traditionally hosts their Eco Fair at Losner Park. This year, the park is unavailable due to ongoing construction. Main Street is seeking to use the City Hall Plaza for the event, which is scheduled for Saturday, February 19th, 2022, from 12 p.m. until 6 p.m. The event will include ecology and the recurring farmers market, among other participants. Approximately 12 to 15 vendors will be on the west side of City Hall, under the colonnade, facing Washington Avenue. A DJ set powered via generator will be adjacent to the vendors for the duration of the event. Staff is seeking direction regarding the use of the City Hall Plaza by Homestead Main Street for their Eco Fair event for Saturday, February 19th, 2022, from 12 p.m. till 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Don't tell Kate I could understand you from that position. I've had a struggle to understand her for 2 years.
People tell me I'm very
seat.
loud, Mayor.
There you
So,
go. Okay.
with that being said, Yvonne was going to be here or call in, but I understand she's under the weather.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so any questions or comments from council on the use of the City Hall Plaza? Councilwoman Avila.
I love this event. I look forward to it every year. It's a shame we haven't been able to have it because of COVID, and I support this item.
Thank you. Anything, Councilman Roth, are you flashing over
No,
there?
I'm just going to say move it.
Moved by Councilman Ross, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any public comment? We'll close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Next item is a motion to place car number 3442 on the council agenda, the augmented reality and mural at the Cybrarium. Mr. Estrada.
Thank you, Mayor. The Cybrarium opened in March 2021 as a state-of-the-art library facility that incorporates events of traditional libraries into a one-of-a-kind, custom-designed educational masterpiece that integrates the latest technology to provide a unique 22nd century experience. In order to further enhance the experience for residents and visitors, staff is seeking to implement an augmented reality mural experience in the Book Mountain area at the Cybrarium. The first floor will be themed around conservation of the earth and species of the Everglades, and the second floor will be themed around outer space and why the earth is such a special planet for harboring life. Staff recommends that mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Before It's Too Late, Inc. for the design, development, and publishing of an augmented reality experience and mural at the Homestead Cibarium for a total of $49,000. It's my understanding that Before It's Too Late is here, and they have a presentation as well.
Very good. Look forward to it. Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Hi there, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I was here back in September, if you remember me. So I'm here representing Before It's Too Late. I'm the creative director and founder, and I also have the assistant creative director here, Marjorie. So we are a nonprofit based in Miami that whose mission is to use art and tech to educate people about environmental issues. And we are currently developing the app for Losner Park, an augmented reality app educating people about Everglades species. Okay. And today we are going to talk about the proposal to add on to that same app an experience for the Cibarium Library, kids section. So this little video shows like the kids section. If you're not familiar, it's a round circular room with many different nooks and crannies and types of walls, and it's 2 floors. And there's a big book mountain sculpture in the middle of it, and on the top floor there's also a space-themed ceiling and planet-shaped sculptures are also. So we basically went there because we were reached out to by the city staff team to come up with an idea for this space. And we went there and brainstormed a concept that we thought would go well with the existing app we're developing for Losner Park and with the existing space here, which is kids-themed, kids illustration type graphic style. And so the proposal we have is that the first floor would really tie into the existing apps, which is educating people about the Everglades species. And we would make it this really immersive Everglades environment and embed different species of plants and animals that we're already 3D modeling for the app into the scene and make it kind of like an I Spy type book mural experience. And then we would also want to animate the book mountain, which has some big blank pages. So kind of have like this fairy tale-like feeling, like once upon a time there was a special planet named Earth, and it was special because it harbored life. It was only known place in the universe to harbor life. The second floor, since it's already space themed, we're thinking that it ties in really well with this bottom floor theme in bringing attention to the fact that Earth is special for the fact that it harbors life. And we would section off the different walls to approach these different space theme topics, such as like our solar system, what the chemical elements are that make life possible, our attempts at space exploration and trying to find life on other planets, or also terraform life on other planets and what it would take. And so the overarching theme is this concept of life and cherishing life. So we also our team came up with some design concepts so that you could get a sense of what we would develop. So this is an Everglades themed wall that we made for the portion of a wall downstairs. This is the cypress swamp, and we've embedded like 8 different species of plants and animals in here. And if the kid were to use the app to scan the different sections of this mural, they would be able to get like these 3D models of the actual species pop up and then click on it for more information. That black square is like the cubby holes that are embedded in the walls. And then this is a mock-up of like a space-themed mural on the top floor. This one, we've got the International Space Station, which is the largest man-made craft in space. There's the Voyager 1, which is the furthest away man-made craft. It's actually 12 billion miles away, launched in 1977. And then we've got Halley's Comet, which is like the most famous comet because it circles the Earth every 75 years and it's visible to the naked eye. So we're thinking about making it fun for kids to learn about important things in space and be able to scan these walls and have these sort of animation storytelling come to life. Here are some samples from the app that we're currently developing for Losner Park. You can see this is like a 3D animal, and then you would have these yellow buttons around it that you can actually tap to learn more about like their habitat, diet, behavior, and then you can tap other buttons to interact with the animal and feed it something or have it dance. We're kind of modeling it inspired after Pokemon Go so that you can actually discover the animal and add it to your biodex. And then you can see some of these 3D animals that we're modeling right now. So that's that Florida alligator, and then this is like the Florida box turtle doing a fun dance move. And then we would also, for the Suburban experience, want to create sort of like 3D animated storytelling to activate some of the spaces like the Book Mountain or the Below and Above to teach kids about these themes. And this is a sample from one of the animators that we selected for this project because we like his style for kids. Okay, so this is our team. We're mostly locally based. We have a creative director, myself, assistant creative director, Marjorie, a lead AR designer, AR programmer, a 3D artist, animator, UX, UI, and graphic designer, and a motion graphics animation designer. And then these are the artists that we select, the visual artists that we would selected for painting and designing the mural because we like their style for kids' illustration. And that's it.
Thank you. Hang on in case we have any questions from the council members. Any questions or comments? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I absolutely love the idea. The dog that was going around the earth, we need to, if that was a thumbs up, that needs to be detailed a little better. Because I already see where the kids are going with it, because we went there. My big ask as an educator, especially of little ones, is to be as realistic as possible. I think the animals look wonderful, and I'm all about the fantasy make-believe stuff, but if this is the Cybrarium and we're teaching them exactly how things are, I don't think the space shuttle should have a face. You know? If there's like an object that's teaching them something and it's talking, that's fine, but to put faces on the planets, I don't know why. I think that kind of throws things off for understanding what things look like. So that would be my only comment, but I love that it ties into Losner Park, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah. That's the one thing that we did add. We do, as an organization, care a lot about the education and actually transferring real knowledge. So for everything that we design, we do look at reference images of what that thing is. So even though those Voyager 1 or International Space Station had faces on it, we wanted to like make it more like personalized, but they are actually modeled after what the thing really looks like. So that is something that we can discuss, I'm sure, with the team and decide like what's the best approach stylistically. Yeah.
Councilwoman?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up because I was almost not able to contain myself. With regards to the faces on the images, I'm okay with attracting the child to want to scan it, and maybe that's the style approach to make it inviting. But then again, the educational component has to be as realistic as possible. I love the fact that you're bringing to life an area that, although has the Book Mountain, which is very inspiring and beautiful and capturing, when we visit there, there's really not a lot to do other than just walk around it and go to a different part. So this is going to be very inviting. I support it. I want to make sure that content, that we're not doing any controversial content. You know, there's a lot of theories in science that are not shared by all. So, where the world and where life begins and all those kinds of things, let's just try to keep subject matters as uncontroversial as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman? Vice Mayor? All right, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment, either in the room or online? Hearing none, then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion to place this item on the council agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Next item, tab 4, motion to place car number 3446 on the council agenda. Administration and Police Delivery Services, 2021, 2022, CDBG, and other related programs. Mr. Estrada?
Thank you, Mayor. On October 15th, 2021, the city advertised RFP 2022-01 for grant administration and project delivery services in connection with the city's Community Development Block Grant Award. Two firms submitted their proposals, with Calvin Giordano and Associates, Inc. receiving the highest score. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to negotiate an award and execute an agreement for RFP 2022-01, Administration and Project Delivery Services 2021-2022, Community Development Block Grant and other related programs to the top-ranked firm Calvin Giordano and Associates, Inc. for a total of $202,014.50. This is a 2-year agreement which breaks down as follows: $86,577.50 for fiscal year 2021-2022, and $115,437 for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Anyone wishing to speak on this matter from the public, either in the room or online? Close the public hearing and ask for a motion to place this item on the council agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item, tab 5, motion to place car number 3407 on the council agenda. Purchase of a 2023 Digger Derrick for transmission and distribution. Mr.
Thank
Estrada?
you, Thank you, Mayor. This purchase is for the replacement of a 2001 Digger Derrick truck, vehicle number 01618, which is used by the electric utility for day-to-day maintenance of the city's electrical infrastructure. The current vehicle is 21 years old, and Fleet recommends replacement of the vehicle due to age and maintenance costs. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one 2023 Digger Derrick truck from Alltech Industry, Inc. for $328,048. This authorization will also allow the manager to accept a price increase of up to 10% if required by Alltech and authorized by the Sourcewell contract. The purchase of this vehicle is in accordance with the Sourcewell contract 012418 ALT. This project is part of the city's capital improvement plan, CIP 2303. And lastly, in order to ensure that local vendors had an opportunity to participate in this purchase, the Procurement Division issued a notice of intent to utilize the Sourcewell contract according to affording local vendors the opportunity to provide a quote, and no responses were received.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. Council, questions, comments? Mr. Vice Mayor.
Mr. Manager, does the Digger Derrick truck do anything other than dig holes?
We have Mr. Cooper here from the electric utility.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman. Yeah, the Digger Derrick. So the Digger Derrick, it has multiple functions, and again, it can dig holes, and it also can be used as a crane. So for instance, we have a transformer that we need to do service and service the radiators. We can take and use a part of the derrick to lift pieces of the transformer and lift heavy items, as well as digging holes as well. So it does a little bit of both.
The reason I was asking, because if it was just to dig holes, I mean, we could just pay any company and say, hey, come dig a hole, and we wouldn't have to pay $328,000.
It's majority of the use, in the use cases. We use it for a lot of different functions throughout the city. And a lot of time we have to borrow and rent equipment, especially for our hardening project that we're working on right now. It's very difficult when not having your own and trying to coordinate with other companies, because those companies are also using it for other projects. So having one of those, and again, the one that we have now is 21 years old, and it's a little bit of a liability for us having some of the controls not work as accurate as you want when you're lifting objects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Anything further? Councilwoman Bailey.
Sorry, Mr. Cooper, one question more, please. Do you know how high it lifts? 50 feet? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman?
That is one expensive truck. But I know that they need it. I know the one we had is like, what, 20 years old?
21 years old.
And we've been renting others. Can we rent ours out now if we buy it? Make some money back? All right, okay. All right, I'll make the motion to approve. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have a second? Second by the Vice Mayor. Anyone wishing to make public comment? We'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second to place this item on the council agenda. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving right along. Next item, tab 6, motion to place car number 3447 on the council agenda. The FDLE Law Enforcement Incident-Based Training System.
Thank you, Mayor. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has awarded the City of Homestead a grant in the amount of $39,955.20 for incident-based reporting system training for 80 law enforcement officers. NIBRS has been implemented to improve the overall quality of crime data collected by law enforcement. NIBRS captures details on each single crime incident as well as on separate offenses within the same incident, including information on victims, unknown offenders, relationships between victims and offenders, arrestees, and property involved in the crimes. Staff recommends the Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the City Manager to enter into an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $39,955.20 from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for incident-based reporting system training for 80 law enforcement officers. This grant requires no matching funds.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? All right, moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? We'll close the public hearing. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Next item is tab 7, motion to place car number 3448 on the council agenda, the Department of Justice Criminal Justice Innovative Grant. Mr. Estrada?
Thank you, Mayor. The United States Department of Justice has awarded the city a grant in the amount of $800,000 in order to address violent crime, specifically gun violence, within the city of Homestead. This program reduces homicide and gun violence and minimizes harm to the community by replacing enforcement with deterrence and fosters stronger relationships between law enforcement and the people they serve. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the City Manager to enter into an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $800,000 from the United States Department of Justice for crime reduction initiatives. This grant requires no matching funds.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Councilman Roth.
Sandy. Sandy. Thank you, Sandy. 919,000 in grants tonight. It's incredible. Colonel, give that lady a raise, please. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. Mr. Estrada, can you give me some examples of what some of those activities will be? How will that money be applied?
Mayor, I will defer to Sandy for that.
This grant is a very comprehensive grant. It involves community policing, enforcement, as well as community building. And in order to obtain this grant, we had to have the support from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the State Attorney's Office, from community groups, et cetera. So it's not just an enforcement grant, though that is a large part of it. It's also getting the community to take ownership of the gun violence problem, and together working with social service agencies, law enforcement, and community members, stakeholders, to address this problem. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Not really, so
Okay.
what are we gonna do different? What are we gonna be able to do that we haven't been able to do without this grant?
We are going to, well, one of the components to this grant is that we are contracting with John Jay College for the National Institute of Justice for their planning. This is a national program. So they're bringing to us an assessment and evaluation, other programs that have been operational in other cities, such that are very similar to ours, what worked there, what didn't work there. So they're bringing new ideas and new approaches. And as a community and as a law enforcement agency, we will determine if that type of approach will work for our community. So this is Miami-Dade has this, City of Miami has this. It's throughout the nation.
Okay, so I guess at some point we'll be briefed on what perhaps some of those new programs or initiatives are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. Vice Mayor.
When a city takes ownership of gun violence,
Sorry?
when a city takes ownership of gun violence, what does that mean exactly?
Basically, that as a community, see something, say something, and that's really minimizing it, but it's getting the community to become proactive in reporting crime and reporting what they're seeing and what's going on in their community, and helping us develop a solution to that problem.
Like a neighborhood crime watch?
Excuse me?
Like a neighborhood crime watch?
It's a little different than Neighborhood Crime Watch.
All right, Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I think a good example is, we sit on the board of Together for Children, and that program itself just looks at all the different components that come together to reduce youth violence. So, for example, parenting classes, different type of things that we can offer for early childhood. It veers off into a million different things. Maybe they come back and say ShotSpotter would be a great benefit to Homestead. But it goes into after-school programs. It goes into a million different things that they can come and say, this is what has been tried and true and could work for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Let me add one more thing. It's interesting as I listened to the police scanner and the radio, and I listened to it quite a bit. And you mentioned the ShotSpotter program, and I thought it was a joke because we had a meeting about the ShotSpotter program several months ago, and all of a sudden, I keep hearing calls on the radio, shots fired in an area, but we can't identify where the area is. And I'm like, I called one of the officers, I said, is this real? Or are you guys just doing that for my benefit? Because I just didn't realize, and it wasn't aware to me that we have that kind of a situation in the city. It's not very often that it happens. But, we don't have a tremendous amount of gun violence that I'm aware of in our city. And that's a testament to the police work that's being done. And this grant will do so many other things as well. There's so many things that our police department does behind the scenes that we may never know that help curb all kinds of things. Our community policing department is probably one of the most active and accessible groups of individuals that any municipality has, and their work is just something we don't see. And I think that this grant, along with all the things that Councilwoman Bailey mentioned, none of us really know what goes into what our police department and our police officers do behind the scenes to help control the amount of crime that we have in our city, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to add that to this conversation. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Do we have a motion to place this item on the agenda? Was the motion made and seconded? All right. Made by Councilman Avila, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any public comment on this item? Close the public hearing then. All in favor? Any opposed? Tab 8, motion to place car number 3449 on the council agenda, the Department of Justice Body-Worn Camera Program. Mr. Estrada.
Mayor, the Homestead Police Department applied for and has been awarded an $80,000 grant from the United States Department of Justice to fund the extension of the city's body-worn camera program to include 40 additional law enforcement reserve officers. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $80,000 from the United States Department of Justice for the Reserve Officers Body-Worn Camera Program. This grant requires no matching funds.
Thank you. Quick question, though. What's the time frame? Is that just for 1 year, or is it going to run concurrently with the balance of our rank and file body cam system?
Sandy's saying 1 year.
Just 1 year only. Okay, so we'll have to go find $80,000 more next year. Okay. Just wanted to be clear on that. All right, any questions, comments from council?
Just
Anyone
one,
wishing to?
Mayor? Just
Yes.
one. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Colonel, how many reserve officers do we have?
Currently, we're a little low in numbers as far as reserve officers. I'd say probably around 20 right now because we've had some recently retire. Our max, which we like to operate at, is usually around 40, so we're about 50% down. And the reason for that is, as you know, a lot of our full-time officers are cultivated and trained as reserve officers, and with the new positions that have been coming open, we've been pulling from that reserve program. So we're trying to backfill that now, work through the applications and so forth, but we're at about 20.
So the reserve officers, they actually work shifts, full shifts, or they do more off-duty details, or how
No,
does?
they work full shifts. They have to work a minimum number of hours, I believe. Initially, it's 40 hours a month, and then it's reduced after a certain period of time down to 16 hours a month. But most of them put in more than 16 hours a month.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. Public comment. None appearing. Do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Pearl, do you have anything further for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to request an executive session in the matter of City of Homestead et al. v. the United States of America. It's case number 3D 2021-1280 in the 3rd District Court of Appeals for the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's make it happen. Anything further from council? Mr. Manager?
Nothing for me, Mayor. Nothing for me, Mayor. Sorry.
All right. Motion to adjourn? So moved and seconded. All in favor? All right. Thank you all. Good night.